Okay.
All right. Welcome, you guys. So glad that you are joining us today. I have today something really cool that I'm going to be sharing with you. And I'm really excited about this because you're going to get the opportunity to see how you can make group tutoring a lot easier. Now, if you're anything like me, I've been using Zoom for years and years and years, love the platform. However, one thing that I haven't loved so much is when the pandemic came around and I started putting some of my students into groups, being able to manage those groups wasn't always the easiest thing to do. And that's because Zoom was never meant to be a place where you could actually do group tutoring, right? It was just a platform that we chose to use because it was the best out there at that time. But now, because of the pandemic, more and more companies are developing products and tools that can help us do our job better. And today I have Laurent Oppenheim here with us, and he's going to be sharing with us a cool tool called Schoolified and how that's going to be able to help us. But before we do that, let me introduce you to Laurent. Hello, Laurent. How are you?
Hi, Joanne. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good.
So tell our
Happy
listeners
Thursday.
and our viewers, where are you from?
Sure. So I'm from France, and if you can't pronounce my name, as I told Joanne, I lived in the U.S. from the age of 9 to 12, and kids just could not say my name. They would
Where are
actually
you
say
from?
Lawrence, which in French is a girl's name. So you can imagine the 9-year-old boy being called Lawrence. That didn't fly well. So I just told people to call me Frank. So if you ever like hesitant to actually say my name or butcher my name, just call me Frank. I get it. I actually use that all the time. As I told Joanne, when I ordered like a Starbucks or something and they just can't say my name, I don't even try to give my name. I just tell them they'll call me Frank. So that's the story.
Oh, right,
So I lived from
right,
the age
because
of 9 to
they're just
12.
gonna mess it up.
Yeah, exactly. So I lived from the age of 9 to 12 to the US, studied in different places. And as every other parent, when the pandemic hits, I found myself a second new job, which is taking care of my kids. And I sat down, and we always take care of our kids, but usually when they're in school, roughly from 8:30 to 3 every day, you don't have to bother. You can focus on your work and your other life, and then not worry about your kids. But suddenly they're all at home. I had to take care of of my kids, and make sure they went through the day in school. And as you said, Joanne, it was really hard. And some of us were lucky. We had our schools which were pretty well organized. They switched to Zoom quite quickly, but really, what I struggled with is you had Zoom and you had like two other tools, and you spent so much time just trying to get them in the class and getting through all those logins and trying to actually understand what they were learning, and you didn't really know. And it was very frustrating for me as a parent to actually see that. In my background, not in education, it's been in digital transformation, helping brands move to digital. Okay. And I couldn't help myself realize that this was very similar to some of the things I did in my other life, professional life. Well, this looks awfully not digitized, and education is really behind in its digitization, and kind of
Mm-hmm.
trying to use different technologies and different tools to actually help and streamline the whole process, right? That's what we've learned through all those apps that we're using in our daily lives, whether it's Amazon, whether it's an Uber, whether it's in Grubhub or whatever, where you want to order food, is that it's just like so easy to get things done, right? And when I look at education, trying to use all of those great tools individually, okay, when you started putting them together, it just became a nightmare to actually make some sense out of those, because it was like point solutions. And that was the genesis of Schoolified, which is to say, how can we actually try to deliver a better, streamlined experience for teachers, for students, for parents, in order to make sure that that whole experience, from the whole scheduling, the whole kind of when's a class? When is a class? What's the agenda? What are the documents they need to actually go through class? The whole classroom interaction. How can we kind of make this better? Because Zoom, as you said, it's a business conference meeting.
Mm-hmm.
The whole modality of Zoom was built to say you have people on one side who are presenting stuff, and the others who at best are listening. Okay, at best. It's video first. And when you look at what happens in the real classroom or in teaching in general, okay, there's a lot more than that. It's a lot of interactions. It's a lot of connections. It's the ability for a teacher to actually see what the students are doing, provide help, walk around the classroom, kind of look over the shoulder, provide instructions, bring a student to the class and in front of the class to actually present to the other students. You can't do that on Zoom, right?
No.
You cannot do that on Zoom. So that was kind of the genesis. And we started unpacking with my co-founder, who is also very frustrated. He has 3 kids. I only have 2. And he was like struggling like crazy. He said, well, you know what? I'm going to try to find options. I'm going to try to find textbooks. I'm going to try to find those things. And he was overwhelmed like I was. And we got together at one point and said, well, maybe we can actually do something better. And that was kind of the genesis. A lot of thinking between, I would say, March and June 2020, a lot of analysis of the market and going through all those different tools. And then we started building. And it's been since then, since June 2020, we started building that platform, which takes the entire education process and try to actually rebuild a seamless flow with lots of different tools, which are entirely integrated to actually build a better experience. So there's a lot of things in the platform, and I can't like show everything because it would take hours and I would probably like bore everybody to death. Okay. But I think the core of what we've built is really that classroom experience, which is kind of unique. And I would say we're not trying to actually mimic the kind of the in-person type of experience, but we're getting awfully close with all of those modalities that exist in any kind of, I would say, environment where a hands-on approach requires those interactions between the teacher and the student. So really focus on K-12, extending to other areas as well, because we realized as we were kind of rolling this out, that a lot of people were saying, well, actually, I actually need this in many different instances when I need that type of interaction in a group session. So that's kind of the story.
I love it. I love it. And you guys, I just want to welcome you guys who are our viewers right now and listening. Thanks for David Branson, who's joining us, and Natalie Morales, Beth and Robert. Thanks you guys for joining us and getting to see this. You guys are going to get to see how cool this tool can really be. So the name of the tool is called Schoolified. How'd you guys come up with the name Schoolified?
We looked for a lot of names. We actually had found a name before. We actually bought the domain. And then for some odd reason, the day after we bought the domain, somebody filed the trademark. We had to change our name. It was like a struggle and all that stuff. And it was like, the whole genesis is, well, this is all about school. How can we actually get people in school schoolified? That's the story.
Oh, that's cool. I love it. You know what? And sometimes it happens for, a better reason. Maybe it's a better fit anyways. And you just got to kind of shake it off to that. And that's the way it goes. It stinks when that happens, but it happens to us as tutors too, because lots of people don't even know to check to see if a business name's been taken or any of that kind of stuff. So that's always a good, kind of reminder for us as well. Always check to see if somebody's already taken it. Are there already businesses with that business name? Does somebody have a trademark on it or anything like that? So, and trademarks are kind of a funky little thing to begin with, because if it's a term that a lot of people are already using, you can't really trademark that or fight for that. So a lot of little idiosyncrasies there with that. But so glad to really dive in and take a look at some of the features. So I know when I saw it, you shared a video with me where you shared how you're able to have kids working on the same thing at the same time and see what they're doing in real time.
Yes.
And that is such a cool feature. Is there a way that we can kind of see what that looks like now?
Absolutely.
In a way?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And then, I can actually show you that, and I'll show you that in a second. But before I do, that experience is actually, it's that kind of classroom experience, and I'll demonstrate that in real time in a few minutes. But before we can actually get there, there's a whole system in the back end that allows teachers, educators to actually prepare everything. And when I say prepare everything, it's how do you actually build your content? How do you actually define your schedule? How do you actually try to invite people to your class? How do you manage payments? Because one of the things that we realized when we looked at this whole education system, I'm French, okay? And I was puzzled by one stat which actually shocked me. You have all those dedicated teachers who are like, they're passionate, right? They're passionate about their job. And one of the stats that shocked me is that I think it's 90% of teachers who work in the US can't make a living just by teaching. Okay. They have to take a second job or a third job. And that was like very shocking. If you have like passion, if you have a passion in life and you're dedicated to actually driving the future of us and the world, which is what teachers are all about, okay, you shouldn't need to drive an Uber just to earn a living. Right? The fact that teachers in the US have special tax exemptions for their material they buy in class, for me, is shocking. So call me French, the stupid French or the socialist French or whatever. Okay. I don't mind. It's just shocking to me. So in our platform, we've built a lot of tools to actually help teachers actually monetize their time so that if they want to kind of, continue living with their passion, they can. Okay. So there's lots of platform out there. There's lots of solutions. That's one of the things that you do, is helping kind of teachers kind of grow their business, and educators try to grow their business. Okay. I think one of the challenges for, every tutor is how can you actually grow and how can you scale? And it's very hard to scale with one-on-ones. You can, absolutely. Some of them are very successful. But if you really want to scale, group classes are the way to go. And doing group classes is hard. It's hard for logistics. It's hard for the administration. It's hard for the preparation, and the delivery is even harder. And that's where we kind of focus on the classroom, is kind of doing that kind of delivery engine, but we have everything in the background to actually help you deliver that experience and manage all the logistics and administration and payments and all that stuff. Okay. So I won't go into the details of that, but I'll just share my screen for a second, just to give you a quick preview of that. If I can find the right screen. Here it is. So in the back end, and I'm just sharing this like really quickly, we have a lot of tools which will help the teachers define their profile. So this is me. I created my profile. I can provide some years of experience, some subjects. I can provide an introductory video of myself. And based on that, I'm going to have this whole page that exists for me. So I get it. All teachers need their online presence. They need to build their brand. We're just doing an extension of that, where you can actually showcase who you are, what you've did, the classes you offered, blah, 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 and people can find you, and then people can actually book your class. Okay, so that's the first step. The second step is we give you the ability to actually connect all the payment mechanisms. So we've partnered with Stripe. You can actually create your Stripe account, connect it to your profile, so that when parents are actually paying, you don't have to worry about like sending a PayPal request, all that, right? People pay for your class. As soon as parents have paid, they're registered in your class, and then the money is dispersed directly to you. Okay. Other tool beyond the administration is setting up your classes. So you have the ability to set up your schedule, define how many students you want in your class, define your pricing. You decide the price that you want, by the way. You define the number of students, you define the subjects you want to cover, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so this is an example. I've actually created this demo class right here with a schedule. It happens every day from, apparently I set it up from 4 to 4:50. Okay, I've invited members, or members can actually just register to it. Okay, and then once that course is actually ready to go and you can advertise it wherever you want, you have the ability to then prepare your content. And the content preparation is actually really cool. Okay, I'm sure all of you and the listeners here are aware with all those tools like Nearpod, like Peer Deck, all of those things. There's lots of great tools out there. What we've done is something very similar. You can actually integrate any content that you like. Okay. If you have your lessons that you got from Teachers Pay Teachers, for examples, or lessons that you've built yourself, for example, in Google Slides, you can actually integrate those slides or those lessons directly in the system. But one of the cool features that we've added is the ability to take any type of content and actually make it interactive. And I'll just show you that in a second. So this is typically a lesson I've built on understanding clouds. Okay, so you want to learn about clouds, and this is going to lesson we're going to go to in a minute. And it's part, it has a sequence of different items. For example, it has a YouTube video. Okay, so I'm just going to put a YouTube link to that video because I found that video like super, interesting. Okay, then I'm going to add a multiple choice question because I want to assess my students. And it's super straightforward. You ask a question, you define the answers, you define which answer is correct. Okay, and we'll see that in the live lesson, how that is translated. Okay, one of the most interesting features that we've built, as I mentioned, you take any type of content and you make it interactive. So this is a simple PDF or a Google slide. And I want to assess my students to see if they understood what that is. So I don't know if you know what that type of cloud is, Joanne?
Not off the top of my head, no.
It is a cumulus, okay? And
yes,
I know because I actually built that lesson, and I want my students to answer that question in class. So I take that image, which exists because I found it pretty, and I can add by a simple button, just like this, I can add an answer to this, okay? And this is what I did. I'm going to delete this one. Sorry. I added an answer area. I defined that the correct answer was cumulus. And then the kids, while in class, they will be prompted to answer that question. If they get it right, nothing to say. If they get it wrong, I'll be notified immediately, okay? On that note, I'll switch to the actual experience. So I prepared my class, I prepared my profile, I set up my payment, I found a way to actually get people to actually book my class. If I know the people, I can send them the link and they can register. If I don't know them, okay, they can actually, we have something that we have not advertised just yet. We have basically a marketplace. There's a whole marketplace where you can publish your class, people can register to it, etc. Okay, but I won't go into those details right now. So everything is ready. My lesson is ready. Now let's get people in class. Okay. Let me just show you that. I have my students. This is my demo class. I invited a certain number of members. They actually paid. Okay. They're registered here, student demo and student demo and student demo and student demo. They're all the same name because I wasn't very inspired by the names. Okay. But let's get to class now. They're all registered. So let me switch screen now and get to that live experience of the classroom. So I don't know, what you should be seeing now is two screens. On the left side, this is the app, and the app runs on different devices. Okay, it runs on any tablet device, okay, or it runs on Chromebooks. Okay, and next week it should run on the newest Macs. And we're working on a version which would be fully web-based, okay? But it requires a bit more development. The reason why we actually focused on an app development rather than anything else is one of the key functions that we've introduced in the platform is handwriting, okay? We all know how handwriting is important, especially for younger kids. There's a lot of research that shows that handwriting is much better for long-term memory, okay, for learning. The brain is actually wired to the hand, okay, and we know how important handwriting is. So the primary method of input for students in class will always be handwriting, okay, and that's why we focused on tablets first. Okay, now we can work with a keyboard, we can work with voice, we can work with lots of different things, but tablet first. So two screens, on one side, the teacher, on the other side, the student, and then I have another device with another student, or two other devices with two other students, but I'm not going to show them on screen, or else it's going to be too cluttered. So I'm a teacher. I called my class demo class, and as a teacher, I have my schedule. I prepared a lesson, which was at Understanding Clouds. It's right there. And if I'm a student on the right side, I also have the schedule for that class. Okay. The teacher knows that, let's suppose it's 3 p.m. They're going to start the class. And this is me. Again, so you have lots of me right now. The students on the right side, okay, as well as the other two devices I have. So I'm playing like 4 people at the same time right now. Okay. They are obviously know that their class is starting. They're notified that the class is starting. And they will join the class, and the others will also join the class. And the other will also join the class. Let me get the echo off. Sorry. Okay. So right now you're seeing me right here, and you're seeing 3 students, a student right here, a student right here, it's the same, and another student right here. Okay. So there's 4.
Frank 1, Frank 2, and Frank 3, guys.
Exactly. Okay. But for the purposes of showing you on screen, on the main screen, okay, I only have like 2, the teacher and a student. So what we just did here is we just captured attendance. So we know when people logged in, we're capturing that info, it's stored. Okay. So obviously, when you're doing tutoring, you're taking kind of attendance to make sure that, people are there. We have that, it's stored. You don't need to do it. It's all in the back end. You can actually share that with the parents if people are late. Okay. But we're going to be capturing that information. We're going to be capturing that information every single time as a trigger to actually understand if kids are late. That's interesting. Every time they're late. Okay. We're going to be capturing that information. And that's one of the data points that we're going to be capturing. There are quite a few. Okay. So we'll get there in a second.
Sure.
So I had prepared my lesson. I'm just going to pull it up. And I just pulled up my lesson, which is in my library, but maybe I have another idea and I wanted to pull another lesson and I wanted to change the subjects. So all of my lessons I have prepared in advance are in my library, and I can access those, kind of lessons in advance. I can prepare them in advance. I can design them into a class in advance, or I can decide on the fly to just take another lesson and do it. Okay. But, for the purpose of this, I'll just go, through this. I had in my sequence a video, so I'm going to play my video to all the different students. And I'm going to stop that video really quickly, or else it's going to get very noisy. Okay, it was a lot of echo, but I'll just show you what happens is, as a teacher on the right, on the left side again of the screen, I'm going to play the video, and automatically that video is going to play on every single student's screen. I actually control that stream as a teacher, and the students, by the way, cannot control and want to log somewhere else. I'm going to stop this. This is horrible. Okay, so I just started my video, and I'll just stop sharing, or else the echo is horrible. Okay, so I have that video. I share that sequence with my students. My students are all going to see the same thing. Okay. And then the next step is I'm going to control the flow of the lesson. After the lesson, I actually want to share something and do a quick assessment. So the teacher just shifted to the next moment. On the right side, nothing is happening. It is not a bug. It's actually on purpose. What happens in Zoom is that when you want to actually control your sequence, you basically change slides. Are the people actually listening? Or are the students listening? Are they watching your screens? Are they paying attention? You never know that. I mean, you can switch to camera mode if the camera is on, but are they really engaged? What we did here is reproduce a function that exists in the typical classroom. Is when a teacher is talking with her students, say, take your textbooks and turn it to page 36. If somebody's looking out the window, they will know. Okay, you can't do that on Zoom. So what we did here is that we're forcing students to pay attention, watch the screen, and act. And I don't know if you can actually see it because it's quite small, but there's a little blinking arrow right here. Okay, and the teacher said, move to the next page. And guess what? It's been a minute that I've been talking. The students get a reminder that they're a page behind. They can notify the teacher that, oh, maybe I'm not feeling well or whatnot. They can put a thumbs up or thumbs down. And by the way, none of the students were paying attention. And as a teacher, I just got a notification that the students were not paying attention right here. Okay, so you can't really see it, but all of my 3 students are behind. I'm notified as a teacher. So at this stage, I can do a few things. I can just call out all those students, say, hey guys, you're like a page behind. Can you mind kind of moving on? And I'm going to have like 2 of my students who are actually going to move on, the ones that you're not seeing on screen. And those notifications just disappeared because they listen. This guy right here, he's still on that page. He's still sleeping. Okay, I can do a few things at that point. Is I can actually I have a few menu options here. I can actually ask, tell the students, do you want to speak in class, and allow him to speak in class, or I can just call him out and finally he understood. So he's going to move to the next page and that notification just disappeared. Okay. So that's another element that we're measuring. Okay. So we talked about attendance and, are they late? Are they on time? Another point we're measuring here is, are they paying attention? Okay. Sure. And we're doing it through here. Another way we're measuring attendance or attention is also if they switch app and start playing Minecraft, I'd know. Okay. And I'll just show you that in a second with another student who decided to move to something else. Okay. And I don't know if you can see here, and I'll just blow it up a second, but I'm being notified that student whatever left the classroom or is somewhere else. That student is actually getting a notification on his screen, and his screen vibrates, by the way, saying, hey, get back to class. Okay.
Nice.
So I'm just going to go back to class because I listened to the notification. That notification just disappeared. Okay. So we have that way of capturing that engagement and monitoring attention through kind of monitoring what people are actually doing. But then I'm assessing the understanding. And here's a simple multiple choice question on those clouds. If I looked at the video, I would have to answer that question. So you guys can cheat because you can actually the right answer as a teacher. It's highlighted here. The other students, they don't know, obviously, so they're going to give answers. Okay, so this one is going to answer, and the other 2, who are in the class are going to answer. They're going to submit their answer. That's what I just did. And guess what? I just got a notification on the left side that one of the students actually provided the wrong answer. And I can get a summary of the answers just by hitting a little button, which is right here. I can actually view the summary. So in real time, I can assess the student's understanding through a simple multiple choice question. We have the ability of adding multiple choice questions, of doing polls, those kind of things. Okay. So again, here, beyond the attention metric, I'm going to be capturing in the app and tying it back to the student some assessment and some assessment data on students' understanding. That's again tied back to that student. Moving on. Now people are all paying attention, so they're all going to be moving screens. Okay. Here we go. And they're all on the right page. I'm going to change again. And I want to get to that question I asked. So you know the answer now. This is a cumulus. So what I'm going to take is I'm going to take my pencil and I'm actually going to write the answer. Okay. I'm going to be writing the answer right here. And I just translated that answer into digital text, even though it's handwriting, and I got the right answer. All good. Okay. But let's say I actually did not have the right answer. Let's say I wrote, sorry, I wrote Cirrus or Circus, apparently I wrote, okay, because I have bad handwriting, okay? I get that notification saying that student gave the wrong answer, okay? So I'm capable of understanding, doing that assessment through like multiple choice questions, but basic handwriting as well, okay? The other two students, and I'm going to take an iPad now, and one of the other kind of tablets, is maybe that student gave the wrong answer, but that's okay. Sorry, I'll just go like this. Maybe some students are actually drawing, okay? And that's what I'm going to be doing here is I'm actually going to be drawing, okay? And this one on the other side is also going to be drawing. You can't see that, but as a teacher, I can actually see what the students are doing. And to do so, I can just switch to this mode. And in this mode, I'm not looking, this is kind of your typical grid mode that you have on Zoom, except here, we're not looking at the faces. We're looking at the workspace of those students. And anything I do on screen, so let's say, student 2, which is right here, and I'm going to blow this up a bit. Sorry. Anything I do here, the teacher will see. Now, it's in blue, so it's not very clear. So this is in blue, so it's not very clear. So I'm going to just change the color and make it red or orange. Okay. I'm going to be writing on screen. And I don't know if you can see right here what I just draw. I can actually see it in real time. Now, it might be a bit small, but that's okay because I can zoom on a given student. And everything I do, the teacher will see in real time. Right? Same thing if I go to another student. Let's say, what is student, this guy, let's see what this guy is doing. So I'm going to take another iPad, or actually a Chromebook. Let me take a Chromebook for a second. So this is a Chromebook. I'm going to take my Chromebook. I'm going to start drawing with my stylus as well. And anything I do, the teacher will actually see. Now, this is super interesting. So let's say the teacher is going to say, well, what you're doing here is actually quite interesting. You didn't provide an answer, okay? But let me actually do a drop-in and give you some direction. So the drop-in function will allow the teacher to actually create a one-on-one session with that student while the other students continue to do their work. And that's what I'm doing right now. I'm just loading. So this is sorry, the mic. So the student and myself, so me and me, Frank and Frank, are working together on screen. So if I do this on from the teacher side, if I draw something on screen, the student will see what I'm drawing. If the student writes something, I will see as well. And this is very private, by the way, because those students are not seeing those interactions, that other students won't see interactions. But if I decide, I can then go and share whatever I'm doing with that student, bring it in front of the class and share the work I'm doing with that student with the rest of the class. And then suddenly we're kind of reproducing that, I can't remember the name or the term for it, but show call, I believe it's in a classroom where you're bringing students in front of the class and then you're kind of working together. That's what we're actually kind of doing in this instance. So as a teacher, I can then share with the entire class. And now whatever the student is doing here, all the students are seeing. And if the teacher does like this, all the students are doing as well. Okay. So we're really into that collaborative mode between the teacher and a student, whether in individual or in group.
I love it.
So I'm going to now stop this session. Okay. Showing you, I've shown those kind of interactions to what we call kind of grid mode. Okay. And I can actually now go back to my class, continue my lesson, or decide that, We can all talk as a group. If I wanted to all talk as a group, I would switch to this mode. And now all of my students are in what we all know today in Zoom, is that all the students are on screen and you can talk, and I can unmic everyone with that little button at the top, and everybody can talk in the class. Obviously, we'll not do it here because it's going to be for me talking to myself. So there's no point in doing that. But if you just wanted to do a Zoom, here you go. You have it here.
Yeah.
But what we're really doing here is really kind of working inside the content, having the ability for the teacher to actually monitor what kids are doing, provide that one-on-one direction, or kind of build them and drive them inside in the classroom. And then there's a whole bunch of other features and cool things, like all those metrics that I'm capturing, like the engagement. Are they paying attention? The academics, are they paying attention, or how are they doing? There's another element I'm not showing, is that we've included also kind of this social emotional monitoring. So when kids log into class in the morning, we're asking them simple questions like, how are you doing? Simple thing. Okay, we're going to be storing that information. When kids do homework, which I have not shown here, is we were like in a synchronous mode, but we also have the ability for students to actually kind of do their homework, okay, and have the teacher go through the homework, correct it, send it back to the students. Okay, when they do so, we're asking them also a question, which is, well, how do you do on the homework? How was it? Was it easy? Was it hard? We're capturing the time it takes for the students to actually do that we can actually compare to what we thought the assignment should actually take, which allows us to actually understand how people are doing and have a bit of self-awareness from the students on their work, which is super important. Okay, is you might have students who say, oh, it was like so hard and I did like so bad, when actually they're a straight A student. Okay, or they actually did really well, or the contrary. Okay, all of those signals we're capturing and providing back to the educator and providing back to the parents, so that they know how kids are doing, so that we can get to a point where all of those metrics come into play to better understand how students can progress in their learning and how we can actually adapt the right content to the right students. So I'll stop there.
I love it.
So
I love it. I love it. I think this is just so cool. All the different features that are built on in, and it's all seamless. It's all in one platform for you, so that you do not have to be, share your screen with that YouTube video and wonder if you're sharing the sound. It's on there, but it's also, I like that feature where it's capturing their, like, they do have to take an action. They can't just be like mindlessly paying attention and not really doing something, and that you're notified if they're not, taking the action, and you can guide them in what to do. So yeah, you need to hit that next button so you can go to the next page.
Exactly. I mean, we basically thought, I'm not an educator, but I remember, my days from school, and I observed my kids when they were on a Zoom, and I know that they were not paying attention. And, in best case scenario, cameras were on. Okay. But and teachers know that, it's really hard to capture that attention. So we're kind of forcing that attention metric. Okay. But the reality is that, and we know, I have 2 kids, and most of us have kids here. Okay. Or some of us have kids. We know that getting kids to actually pay attention without somebody kind of looking at what they're doing is really hard. Right. So that's where we kind of
that accountability, right?
Yep. So, and then there's a lot of things that we haven't, that I have not demonstrated here. We've introduced functions to take any type of content. So we have like a whiteboard, which is just for like random stuff that you can actually bring in. We've introduced also a web browser, which will be released sometime next week, whereby you literally can take any type of content that exists online, share it with students, but then give them the control. So I'll give you a very simple example. We all love IXL, okay, for math. We all love IXL. You have the ability for a teacher to say, you know what, we're going to be working on IXL and some exercises on IXL right now. Okay. The teacher can share a specific lesson on IXL, can give control to the students of that specific lesson or that specific exercise, And in the same way that you could actually monitor that, that document that you've just created, you could actually monitor the students working on IXL or any type of content as if you were sitting just next to them. Okay. But
Yeah.
the beauty of it is that kids can't wander off into the ether and decide to go somewhere else on the web.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We give the teacher always has control of what the students are able to do. So if they decide to give them access to Google search engine, fine. If they decide to give them access to a specific document that exists on the web, that's also fine. But they decide. The teacher is always going to be deciding the type of content and resources which are being used. So the possibilities here are endless because we know there's a lot of content that exists online. We're just giving a conduit for those teachers to actually share it and have the students kind of work with it, but for them to actually see what they're doing.
Yeah. What about websites where the kid would have like their own individual login for that website so that like all their content. So you could do that. So like I use Raz Kids all the time with my students. So I would be able to, as a teacher, say, okay, we're going to go to Raz Kids or we're going to go to Kids A to Z, but each of you guys are going to log on into your account so that they're reading like their books that are on their level.
Exactly. And you could see how they're doing in that moment. Okay. You could actually do a drop-in with them because they're like struggling on that specific piece of content and provide that guidance. Okay. So, yeah. So,
yeah. And I think that is absolutely huge. I mean, that just makes it so much more doable. Like as a reading tutor, I don't even have to be using the same book with each of my students. They could be reading their own content and applying the strategies that we're talking about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You nailed it. And, it's also, we thinking there's a lot of very cool stuff in science with like virtual experiences and virtual reality experiences. You could have kids manipulate their own kind of experience within that online portal and have somebody kind of go through it and help each kid individually. So, the possibilities are quite endless. So we're pretty excited about that feature, which is coming up. So.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. I just started like brainstorming even with myself and just thinking about if I have 4 kids in a group and we're focusing on a strategy, I could pop on in and say, okay, find a word for me that has this pattern in the book that you're reading right now. And I can be looking for a couple of things. What page are they on in the book? Are they moving along with the book? And if they stop for a long period of time, I'm notified, right? Like if there's not really any action happening on their side that, okay, they seem to have not done anything. Do you have the ability to change the time parameters on that?
So right now, no, but we do have the ability to say, I'm not going to go like in technicalities, but everything that we do is like API driven. So any kind of function we can actually modify. We just haven't built all the customization tools to do that. So right now, the timer that we've implemented is 1 minute. Okay, for like kids are not following. We probably will at one point release a feature, but it can be overwhelming. We're trying to marry simplicity, okay, and customization. Yeah. And it's a fine line to walk. Some of the feedback we've received already is that, it's like too complicated. There's like too many functions, right? But then it's like, we love this, but we love this. But then you're asking us to actually add more functions. So we're going through that process. We're adding through that process. But yes, it's the possibilities are there. It's just a question of prioritization based on kind of user feedback.
Oh, for sure. And the more things that users have to learn in order to use the tool, it decreases the amount of ability of the people that can use the tool.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. Yeah. So I was just thinking, because I know like my students, like they'll spend more than a minute reading like a page of a book. So I always get I'll get a notification that they're not doing anything, but I could be popping on in and just making sure that they are doing the reading.
Exactly.
They just they're still reading that page.
Yeah, mind you, that notification of kind of moving on to a page is only within a container of content. So let me just clarify that, is that you're notified if they're behind, if it's one piece of content in that kind of in that composition. But if you're within an environment, which is, for example, an online resource, okay,
Mhm.
we can't control the timer on that. Okay.
Gotcha. Okay.
But the point you're making is that you want to check in where they're at. Okay. You just go
Yeah.
into code as I showed, and you can see what those students are doing like in real time. And you'll know you're like on the
Yeah.
same page. And so yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I love that. I love that because you guys, like when I'm just thinking about like phonics and teaching that, I don't actually have to have the same content in front of each of my students when they're reading different content. If we're trying to really master being able to read certain words, here we have the ability to bring in the games that we typically would use anyways, like wordwall.net to play some of those games. They can play them. Can they interact with each other if there's like multiple players on like a certain game, or is it better to have them each individually working?
So I think, if you're within an online, let's say you're within an online environment or an online resource, okay, which allows those type of group interaction within that online environment.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if they decide to go in that online environment where they actually share, of course they can share. We're just a conduit to their individual screen.
Sure.
So what we're saying, you as a teacher would see that online interactions between them within that platform. So it's kind of like those Russian puppets, is what you call it, is that you would see that kind of grid mode. You would see each individually, but if each individually decides to be within one group, then they will all have those same screen. But if they then decide to go on the side and do their own thing, you would see what they're doing on their own. So.
And can you put like a website on like the whiteboard? Like, let's say that you want everybody to like interact together on it and have controls. Do they have the ability to do that?
So yes, the whiteboard function would actually allow you to actually do that, is that you can actually bring all of the students into that whiteboard and all of them could actually collaborate. Okay. One of the things that we're working on though, and we're still trying to actually find the best way of doing that, to be honest, is the notion of breakout rooms, where you would be able to say, this student, this student, this student, they're going to be working on this. And this student, this student, this student, they're going to be working on something else. Okay. We're trying to actually kind of rebuild an experience like that, which we all love on Zoom, which are kind of breakout rooms, but while still bringing some of our functionalities of that educator being able to actually drop in each of those individual breakout rooms and kind of provide guidance, right? We're working on that. It is actually a very complex problem because we want to avoid reproducing the functionalities of Zoom, okay, or those breakout rooms, to actually use some of the benefits that we have to actually kind of bring it in kind of a new experience. So we're working on that project. But the collaborative work beyond the whiteboard right now does not exist between group of students that you've decided to get that need to work together. Okay.
Sure.
There's other ways. Think of it this way: if you could decide that, let's say it's a creative writing exercise, okay, and you could have students work on the Google Doc collaboratively, okay, because one of the things I did not mention is that. We've introduced a feature where we build a virtual locker attached to your class. And the virtual locker, what that means is that when you build your course, as I showed you in the beginning, you can actually attach a specific Google Drive and specific folder. And every student who is actually registered in it will have access to that folder. And in that folder, they have all those shared documents. They also will have a copy of all the lesson you went through over the live class with all their annotation, their own annotations, but also all of the annotation of the teachers. So it's kind of a note-taking tool, and they'll have a copy of that class.
Oh, sure.
But inside,
so you don't have to send that to them afterwards. They have it.
It's there. Okay. What I was talking about, that collaborative doc, is that you could imagine a session whereby you say, okay, guys, creative writing, this group is going to work together. Okay. So you just assign them and you assign that Google Doc to all those different people, but then they're all working collaboratively on Google Docs. And you can see by just going in that grid mode, all of those users except you know how it works in Google Docs. Well, you have that little signature with different color.
Oh, sure, yeah.
You would actually see multiple Google Docs or you know on your screen, even though it's the same, but all the people working collaboratively and see how the groups are going in it.
Sure.
Okay. So that's absolutely a possibility. So there are a lot of functions that allow you to do those kind of like small groups and stuff. So yeah.
I love it. I love it. That's awesome. And it just makes it such a more user-friendly experience than Zoom for those of you who are really interested in doing group classes, being able to scale your services to be more than just working one-on-one with students. And really being able then to increase exponentially the amount of income that you are bringing on in. I mean, when you can really take the time to learn how to use the tools, manage the students that are coming into the classroom, and you now have the ability to hold them accountable for their actions, you know, when they're getting on, you know, when are they arriving to class, what are they assigning, how are they participating. You're going to be able to give some really good feedback to that when a parent asks you, how is my child doing, because you have all of that feedback right there, whether it's in that shared document of the work that they've done, or you have got everything that you need at your fingertips without having to worry about saving it, worrying about where do I have to put this, where do I have to put that. It's all there so that you just access it and then you can communicate with a parent. And that makes it so much more easily very efficient. Now, you said there's also a parent login as well for this so that they can,
yes, so
they
the
can see
parents
certain
have access.
aspects.
So yes, so there's a few things for the parents. One is something that we've imagined, which felt like super interesting, which is one of the big parent pain points is homework. How do you manage your homework? Did you do your homework? Did you complete your homework? All of those kind of things, right? So we have a parent app right now, which allows parents to actually see all the homework which is assigned, and if the kids have actually done it or not. Okay. And by the way, they can do it on the platform. They can do it offline. Okay. And they can actually take a picture of the homework or upload it from whatever and just send it to the kind of teacher. Okay. What we have not built just yet, because we're looking for that feedback as well, is how to represent all of those data points back to parents. What are the type of data points that they want and how do you present it? But we have all of the data. It's just a question of representation. And that's why, we're in that stage. We're in that stage of development where we're very open. We're trying to get, people to help us actually build this, and teachers who actually help us build this, and parents who actually help us build this, because we want to build this, for them, right? And we want to make sure that we kind of do this and in that sense. And that's why as well, and a little plug on the kind of the commercial model right now. We're in an early stage. Okay, we're in our stage. One thing I did not mention is that the platform is entirely free. So teachers can use the platform entirely free for now. Everything in there, whether it's a calendar, whether it's a booking system, whether it's the invoicing system, whether it's actually using and delivering that classroom, all of that is entirely free. It's not going to be free forever, because at one point we'll have to actually pay for engineers and pay ourselves, right, and pay for the infrastructure. But for the time being, it will. And then the commercial model behind it, we're exploring different ones. Okay, but for sure, parents will pay. We'll take some kind of admin fee, which is the case right now, which is very low for all those classes. But if you're a teacher right now, and for the time being, at least for the next 3 months, 6 months, if you charge a class of $100 to parents, you will actually get the $100 in your bank account immediately after the class is actually finished. So just to say, so we're not taking commission, we're not taking anything, and the tool itself is free. So
So this is great, you guys. You can explore it for free. You can add feedback and help with coming up with solutions, ideas.
Yep. Especially negative feedback. We love negative feedback. We love pain points, because we've built this because it was painful. So if we're not doing a good
Yeah.
job, okay, we want to hear it. We want to hear back. So yeah,
Yeah.
we love hard problems and trying to actually crack them. So
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And it's always about making the platform the easiest to be able to use while at the same time being the most beneficial for everybody all around. So yeah, definitely give this a go, you guys. It doesn't cost you anything to do it. It's a free tool that you have at your fingertips. It's not going to be free forever. So like now is the time to get on board and
yeah,
check it out and see what are things that work well for you and what are some things that are difficult, and try it out with a group class. Like get some students together and just say, okay, let's try some of these features out. You could even have it as like, think of it as like a beta class yourself, or maybe you're not charging anything for this class. You're just seeing
yes,
how do these features work as we kind of move along, and how could I make this work with my business model. So I think
exactly.
a lot of people are going to be really excited about this tool and checking it out and being able to see how they can increase the amount of money that they are making by adding some. And you don't have to add all group classes, guys. I mean, that's the beauty of it, right? Start with building one group class and then add another group class. Start small and start adding on top of that. And I think what you're going to find is that the amount of money that you're able to make at the end of the month is going to be significantly greater because you chose to do these kinds of things. So
Yep,
awesome.
yep.
And thank you for joining us today, Laurent. This was amazing. I love it. I can't wait to see where this goes. I know that we've seen some other resources and tools that are in this beta form, and it is so cool just to see technology moving ahead with us and how we can really serve the needs of our students. So thanks for everything that
Yep,
you're doing. And thank you guys for joining us today. It's been awesome having you
absolutely.
check out this new tool. We'd love to hear what you think about it. And if you'd like to see this kind of stuff, hit that like and that subscribe on this channel so that you can see more cool tools that are coming on out. And thanks for joining us, everybody, and have a wonderful
Thank
rest of
you.
your